The Setting Up API Equipment Special Feature webinar is going to cover how to set up your equipment that your vendors and manufacturers have already integrated with, as well as some use cases and some best practices for setting up your equipment. So to start things off, I wanted to go over what exactly an API is. API stands for Application Programming Interface. So I'll be referring to it as API throughout the webinar. But essentially, the application programming interface allows two applications to talk to one another. The CBRNResponder API that we developed allows both radiological and chemical detection equipment to talk to CBRNResponder. So taking a look at the images here, you can see on the left, those are the meters, the equipment items. There's also in the top image there, the Ludlam app. So all of those applications are integrated with the API that we have developed, and then that is what's going to connect your data into the CBRNResponder site and into your event. So we wanted to create an API for all of our CBRNResponder users. That way you take out that probability that there may be some human error. So integrating directly with CBRNResponder, your equipment and the corresponding application is just going to directly submit that data. So again, this is going to decrease the probability of those data entry mistakes that you may have. And with this, we are looking to eliminate that factor, again, of human error. You're not having to fat finger any numbers into the system if you have gloves on, or you're not in an area where you have time to fill everything out. This API really helps streamline that process to increase efficiency and accuracy in your data collection and a response. So today we are going to be primarily focusing on the equipment data API, but we do have 3 API client types that all users are able to set up for themselves. The first is Fixed Data API. So with this, you're able to submit fixed point monitoring data to a data feed in CBRNResponder. So for an example of when to use this, again, those stationary instruments, and it's going to be collecting data at a single location over time. So if you have some monitors set up around your nuclear power plants and every 2 minutes it's collecting a reading, you're able to see that trend from that historical location. We also have a user data API, and this is the method of submitting data points to CBRNResponder for a specific user. So the user would have some sort of interface or another application for entering data. This could be a screen on the equipment itself or a mobile application. An example of this, if you're familiar, would be the Lumic Linker app. So this is using the Ludlam 3000 and Ludlam 3001 equipment items. So it's an actual app that you can download and then use with the equipment that Ludlam has. So you'll authorize yourself, authenticate with CBRNResponder, and then you'll be able to have that data again streamed into RadResponder, ChemResponder, and you can see here in the rightmost image that the source again was coming from the API and it was collected for this user. And then the third API type we have is the equipment data API. So this is submitting data points to CBRNResponder on behalf of equipment that is registered with CBRNResponder. So the registration part is what we'll be diving into today. And when you should use this is if the equipment itself does not necessarily have an interface that the user reacts with. So the user data, that's where there is some sort of interface, but for the equipment data, there is not. So an example could be a detector on a truck, an item on a backpack, or a drone device. You can see here that in the top image, that's the automated equipment, and it's registered to collect this data. You can see the owner of it, the manufacturer, the sensor, serial number, all of that can be used, entered, and then used to collect that chemical reading. So specifically looking at the equipment API, the detection equipment is going to telemeter data directly into directly to an application, which again minimizes the human error and improves overall data quality. The equipment that's integrated with CBRNResponder, it can be integrated directly with us or via the manufacturer's mobile application. So again, not requiring anybody to manually enter readings into the CBRNResponder mobile app or website. So there are two ways that the equipment API can be set up. It would be the equipment communicating directly with CBRNResponder, or if their equipment has, again, a separate mobile app, it can receive readings from the equipment, then go to their app, and then that would go into CBRNResponder. So there's no equipment that integrates or has any connection to our own CBRNResponder mobile application. So throughout this webinar, we'll be working through a checklist of sorts to sort of confirm that you have everything set up. So the first step is going to be confirm that the equipment you have is even supported by the CBRNResponder API. Next, you'll want to make sure that the equipment's mobile app, so that manufacturer app, is compatible with the mobile device that you're going to be using. Not all equipment is set up with each different platform. You'll then register your equipment with the API client application that we have. And there are a few ways you can obtain the link to do this. You can first reach out to us at our support email. You can reach out to the specific manufacturer. So if you want to reach out to Honeywell for using their equipment, or we do have a job aid that's in our resource library that also contains the link. And then the fourth item you'll want to do is associate your organization's equipment with the API client application. So this could be through the existing equipment if you already have it entered in CBRNResponder. If you don't have it entered in CBRNResponder yet, you can enter new equipment at that time to associate with the API client app. So some of the equipment integrations that we have some for both the radiological and for chemical detection. To find and locate these instruments, under our About tab in our top header, and this is going to be on the individual RadResponder and ChemResponder sites, you should see an equipment integrations option. You're going to go to the respective site based on the detection equipment that you have. And we do have a general information blurb about the equipment API. So a lot of what I just went over, and it is going to be the same for both RadResponder and ChemResponder, just with those terminologies of hazard types. We do have a caveat that is listed on the page there. So this is a list of equipment that's integrated with either Rad or ChemResponder as reported by the manufacturers. If they make enhancements on their end, it is going to be their responsibility to let us know of that. So we don't always verify each update of all of the integrations that they have. We recommend organizations reaching out to the manufacturer just to verify everything's still good and their test equipment is working before purchasing. So on the equipment integrations page, you'll see a list of all manufacturers, and we do have external links to all of their websites. And you'll also see the supported platforms that the integration can be used with. For the echo gamma detector here, it is supported only on a Windows device. So if you were to use, again, the mobile application for Marion, the echo gamma detector on an Android device, this integration would not work. So you want to make sure, again, that you're using a supported platform when you're going to be collecting this data. These are the following radiological detection equipment items that have been integrated with RadResponder. We have currently 9 manufacturers, and again, all can be found on the website. We have a number of equipment integrated from Honeywell and MSA Safety, and are currently working with Blackline Safety to get them integrated with their equipment. We did confirm that, again, our equipment would be supported by the CBRNResponder API, and then we're going to confirm that we're using a device that is compatible with the integration. So now for actually registering your equipment, you are going to need either the equipment manager, planner, or administrator role to access the registration page. If you remember from that checklist, there are 3 different ways that you can obtain the link to register your equipment. The first is going to be reaching out to us at support@cbrnresponder.net. Most of the time we will refer you to the registering equipment with rad/ChemResponder API, that job aid that's found in our resource library. But if you do know the specific manufacturer contact, you can reach out to them and they can provide you with a specific link to register your equipment. So I'll now split up into the two different methods again for registering. The first is the manufacturer specific registration link, or we do have the general registration link. So if you have obtained the specific manufacturer's equipment registration link, then you'll be able to navigate directly to their registration page. The equipment manufacturer, they are responsible for creating this link, so they're the ones that will need to give that to you. And you'll notice that the third-party application field right there, as well as the vendor and manufacturer, is already going to be selected because we navigated directly to the specific page. So that's the application I'll be using. If you try to navigate to the specific link and maybe the URL has changed, you will get this message, and then if you reach out to us, we will give you just the general for you to use. And most of the time you'll probably be using this generic register link, which you'll see there's no highlighted text after register. It's just the general equipment registration page. So you will be able to look through the third-party application vendors and select this yourself. So if you were unable to find Honeywell's specific link, you can still select Honeywell from the drop-down here. And then once you've selected the third-party vendor, the third-party application drop-down populate with the optional applications for that vendor. So whether you use, again, that specific link or the general one, the process is still the same. The fields just may be filled in for you there. There are then two ways that you can register the equipment with the API application. The first being if you already have your equipment entered in RadResponder, or you can do equipment that's new to RadResponder. So we started registering our equipment. Again, we found our third-party application vendor and the link there. So now we're going to actually associate the equipment for the final step. Let's say you already have your equipment added to your organization in Rad or ChemResponder. You'll select that first option, and then you'll see additional fields appear for you to search and select for your equipment. You'll see a blue information banner there. Your equipment does have to have a serial number associated with it for you to be able to add it to the API client. Select existing equipment field. You will search based on either the manufacturer and or serial number. And once you select that equipment item, it'll populate the nickname field with the exact same name, and then you can update it as desired. And then make sure to register your equipment to successfully associate it. You can also continue to do that for as many equipment items as you would like. And then if you're looking to do the new equipment, when you select new, you will again see additional fields appear, and this is going to match the actual equipment item entry form that you would typically see in your organization space. So again, you can assign it to anybody, enter the manufacturer, model number, all of that information, just as you typically would during equipment entry. Once you select an equipment type, you'll see even more additional fields appear. So if you select a gas meter or a sensor, you'll see fields pertaining towards that you can enter. And then you'll want to just make sure you register again to successfully add the equipment to the API client app. So getting your equipment set up, it's going to be, again, those 4 steps. So if you follow those items, you'll be able to get your equipment registered. So next, I'll show where you can actually view these equipment registrations and if you need to manage them at any point. Again, you must have the equipment manager, planner, or administrator role to manage these equipment registrations. Once you have registered the equipment, it's going to bring you directly to the actual equipment items details page. You'll scroll down to a third-party registration section. If you open that, that's where you'll see all of the different applications it's been registered with. So here I can see that I have this equipment item registered with the CB Tech vendor and the application name. I can also see who created that and when. And then if at any point I want to remove a third-party registration, I can select manage, and it'll bring me to a page where I can choose to remove those equipment registrations. Now I'll actually go into some use cases of the equipment API and how you can utilize that in your events. This image here in this slide focuses on the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection Bureau of Nuclear Engineering during a National Background Week. Our most recent one was in March of 2023, but New Jersey has participated in 2021 and 2023, and they have collected in the same event almost 100,000 surveys across the entire state. So you can see here that collecting those manually, hand by hand, entry by entry, would not be feasible for a week and having to collect that much data in such a large state. So they used the equipment API, the items that they had registered, and were able to drive up and down, walk around, travel, and collect all of those data points. Another use case, and this is on a much smaller scale, but we recently went to the Ludlam Open House, which was in Sweetwater, Texas last month in April. And we had 2 different sessions each day. And in those sessions, we took about 30 minutes for participants to use the Ludlam 3000 and 3001 equipment items to go out and collect readings in the area. They collected 230 survey readings. You can see in that top right image. Something else that you're able to do with your equipment items and with the equipment API is add any comment or pertinent information such as battery life. So Ludlam actually, their equipment is set up to add that as a default comment anytime a data point comes in. So you can see highlighted in orange for data validation for my assessors. I can see the model name, serial number to match that up. We have been working with the Ohio Department of Health and Ohio Unmanned Aircraft Systems the past few years, and they have a drone you can see in the top right there. It's a DJI Matrix 600 Pro. So what they do is attach an equipment item to the actual drone. So that's what's going to be talking to our API and entering that data in RadResponder. So you can see in the left image there, that is the application for the equipment item that's attached to the drone. So that's what's going to be talking to us, our RadResponder API, and then overlaying on the map there. And to break that down in a little bit further, so you can see here, we have starting at the very bottom left, we have that radioactive material. The radiation is coming up. So the drone has been sent out. It has detectors attached to it, cameras, and then as it's collecting that data, it's then telemetered through the attached detector to where incident command is, and that is that drone rad application that was on the left, which is then talking and has been integrated with our RadResponder API. And through the API, it's then able to be displayed on the event map in RadResponder, the data tables for all of the different partners and decision makers that have access to that event. So for those of you that are interested as well as in the drone and the detector, so the detector was used for detecting gamma radiation and counts per second and MR per hour. And then there was a mid-range open window, GM greater than 5 MR per hour for beta and gamma. And then actually inside the box, there was a more high range item, and then that was for detecting greater than 50 MR per hour. This also had a radio transmitter and a GPS that was tracking the points. So just to show some other images that we were able to get from Ohio and their drones, in the top left image, that's RadResponder. You can see the areas where it's red and orange there. That is a high severity level. And then Ohio was able to take that data, create a post-processing model, and see exactly where that radiation was. Similar on the bottom left, that's again their application that is talking to our API. And then you can see that data in RadResponder. And then just one final example of that, just to show the different use cases. The one on the right is for counts per second. So you can have different units and different radiation types that are being collected.